This is a rich mushroom and red wine glaze. I've been on a soft food diet for 2.5 years after surgery on my jaw. I looked for recipes that would be soft enough to give me more than mashed potatoes to eat. For the mushroom gravy, we're going to need mushrooms, a shallot, and garlic. We're also going to need fresh herbs, but I'll pick those later. For the shallot, the recipe calls for 2 tablespoons. I'm just going to use the entire shallot. We'll need 2 cups of mushrooms. My mushrooms are kind of getting to the end of their little lives, so that's why they're getting turned into gravy. And I'm hoping that 4 is enough to make 2 cups. Otherwise, we're going to take what we can get. For the shallot, I'm going to cut it into pieces as small as I can. I usually try and go for pieces that are 1 millimeter squared, and they end up being about 1/4 of an inch squared. I cut them long ways first, and then I go in the opposite direction and cut short ways. If you don't have a shallot or you don't like them, you can use any type of onion instead. That's definitely more than 2 tablespoons, but I'm going to use the whole thing. I'm going to start melting a tablespoon of butter in a pot on the stove. And as soon as it's melted, I'm going to add the shallot and have the shallot start cooking till it's almost caramelized. While that's cooking, I'm going to start on the mushrooms. First, I cut them in half, so there's a flat side down to cut on. And then I cut it into 3 pieces long ways. So top half of the mushroom, 1, 2, 3 pieces. Bottom half of the mushroom, 1, 2, 3 pieces. And I do it that way so that the mushroom pieces will be really small and I won't end up having to chew any of them. I'm cooking it on medium. Then I'm going to cut into small slivers. I'm going to try. The mushroom really doesn't want to be cut up. Cut off the stem, cut it in half and get a flat side. The pieces are still pretty small, or pretty tall, but they will shrink down a lot as they cook. And go check on the onions and make sure they're not burning. The small pieces of shallot are cooking pretty quickly. I'm going to add in the mushrooms. And the mushrooms cooking are going to go from dry to wet when they release their moisture, and then they'll get dry again. That can take a little bit of time. At least 10 minutes. And while the mushrooms are releasing their juices, I'm going to chop up the herbs and the garlic. For herbs, I have rosemary, a little bit of sage, and thyme. First, we have to take them off of their stems. So you hold the stem at the top, and then you run your fingers down it, and the leaves pull right off. For the sage, I pile the leaves on top of each other. And for the thyme, same thing, pull it down off the stem. The leaves are a lot smaller on the thyme though, so sometimes it's a little harder. We'll need 2 tablespoons of herbs after they've been cut up with the knife. And going over them with the knife helps release the oils and the flavor. We're also going to need beef stock, red wine, and balsamic vinegar. We'll need 2 tablespoons of garlic. I take a bag of garlic, put it in a food processor, and then portion it into squares and keep it in the freezer. And that saves me a lot of time when I'm cooking. So I'm going to use 2 tablespoons worth. And since mine was frozen, it's going to cool down the entire mixture, so it'll take a second for it to come back up to temperature. And once you've added the garlic in, you're also going to want to add in the herbs. If you're going to use dried instead of fresh herbs, then you would need 2 teaspoons of dried herbs as opposed to 2 tablespoons of fresh. The difference is literally just the water. And we're going to need a tablespoon of flour. 1 to 2 tablespoons of flour. We're going to make a roux. And you want to put the flour on and mix it in and let it cook so that it cooks the paste flavor off of the flour. A roux is equal parts fat and flour, so since we put 1 tablespoon of butter, I added 1 tablespoon of flour. We're going to need a splash of balsamic vinegar. And a cup of red wine. Since I only use wine to cook, I buy the little tiny bottles, and then that's basically usually 1 serving of whatever. That's usually enough for 1 recipe. You want to let the alcohol boil off. You want to reduce the amount of wine by half. Next, we'll need 1½ cups of beef stock as soon as the wine has reduced. I'm going to add in 1½ cups of beef stock. And we're going to let everything cook together for 15 to 20 minutes. I added 1 to 2 tablespoons of cornstarch to a little bit of water, and then mixed that in with the gravy to thicken it a little more. I usually serve this over the beanloaf that I make, or just regular beans. You can also serve this as a sauce over pasta. I want to thank Chef Jean-Pierre for the inspiration recipe and for giving me something that was more than mashed potatoes to eat.